with the next Pokemon Scarlet and Violet DLC on the way in about a week and a half when you guys are seeing this. We recently got a leaked list of legendaries that are all going to be available to catch in-game. Whether some of them are exclusives to versions like Violet or Scarlet, we do not know yet, but all the legends, which I'll throw on screen right now, just a spoiler warning if you guys do not want spoilers, click off the video right now. But I'll show you guys a graphic of all the new legendaries that are going to be coming into the game and will be catchable in the DLC. This is 100% confirmed and already leaked. So today we're going to just be talking about these legendaries, all the mons that are currently not in the game, and how they are going to either fare in VGC if they're legal in VGC, or like some main things that can maybe change with them going forward, at least like competitively for VGC and even like singles. So let me know in the comments down below as well what legendary that is going to be returning that you're going to be able to catch in the DLC, which one's your guys' favorite. At least for me, it's the one you guys probably see on screen right now. My favorite Pokemon in the entire game and out of the entire franchise is Raikou, and it's finally coming back, so I'm so happy. I cannot wait to use Raikou again. It's been forever since I've been able to use it. The last time I actually did use it was back in Ultra Sun and Moon because I never really played the Sword and Shield games. So long time no see. Can't wait to use my boy again. It's great. I'm really happy for that. Same with the other legendary dogs. I like the Suicune and Entei as well. I really like those. They're some of my favorite legends. So same with the Swords of Justice. I really like Terrakion and Cobalion and stuff. So let me know in the comments down below what's your guys' favorite legendary. Leave a like, subscribe, share the video before we get into this. I'm not going to try to make this video incredibly long. I'm just going to kind of go over like an overall summary of a lot of the stuff here and like a lot of the new returning mons. Some of these are already in-game, so I'm not going to really talk about the ones that are currently available already in-game, just the new ones that we're going to be getting with the DLC. I also have channel members. If you guys want to become a channel VIP, click the link down in the description or the join button right beside the subscribe button below the video. If you guys want to become a channel member, really helps out the channel. First off, we're going to start off with Raikou. Raikou these should be all legal in VGC, like every single mon you guys see here. The 3 Swords of Justice and the 3 legendary dogs. These should all be legal in Regulation F because we already got the Regulation F VGC rule set. So as long as they're in the Pokédex, which they should be, they're legends, but I think they should be in the Dex, unless they're like exclusive to like a mystery gift or something, which we don't know yet for sure how they're going to be implemented in the game. All we know is that they're going to be in the DLC in some way, whether it's a mystery gift or whatever it may be. Hopefully it's not that, but they are going to be in the game. So as long as they're in the Dex and they're included in the Indigo Disc DLC, they should be legal going into Regulation F. So kind of just talking about Raikou, let's look at the stats real quick. We're just going to kind of be going based off of like the current moveset as well from what it had for national decks in the past. So keep in mind, like a lot of these mons could also be getting like different types of even like stat changers or something maybe. It's kind of far-fetched because they don't really do that really much, but it could always be a thing. They could have ability changes. But the main thing is a lot of the move pools for a lot of these mons could change, so keep that in mind. And there's no Terra option here because I have to use National Dex to actually look at these mons on Showdown, so that's kind of why. But the stats for this thing is actually really good. I think the main thing with Raikou is you have the base 115 special tackles, which is really, really good. And the main thing is the 115 speed. The things that this thing actually outspeed being Electro type, which really isn't a crazy common type right now, at least in VGC, at least when I'm recording this for Regulation E. The Electro type really isn't crazy, and the main thing is just because Landorus is so common. And that's kind of the thing that's kind of holding it back. Same with like Amoonguss and a lot of the grass types. Rillaboom's really common. You can't really do much to Rillaboom and that type of thing. But I think the main thing that's going to make Raikou stand out is it's faster than Tornadus, which is huge, being Electro type. You force Tornadus to Terra. You're also faster than Urshifu. Apart from Scarf Urshifu, which is still really common, but like natural Urshifu, you outspeed, which is huge. You pretty much one-shot that thing most of the time. And with how much speed here as well, like you can kind of run maybe just like, I don't know exactly how much the EVs are, what you really need to outspeed like 100s or even like 110s. You could also just run like enough speed to outspeed like a max speed Tornadus. And if you want to do, and you can put like some of the rest of the EVs into like bulk. But it does get a really solid moveset. At least for me, the one thing I'm actually looking forward to is using Raikou on like a rain team. I think this would be a really good mod to throw on like a rain team with like a Pelipper or like a Politoed. I really do. Just being able to spam Thunder, especially with like a Terra Electric Thunder, even like Terra Flying, just to be able to negate Landorus. I think that'd be incredibly good. Or even like Terra Ice. And another thing that I guess there is a Terra option here, actually. There actually is. I forgot about that, but I said there wasn't earlier, but I didn't realize there was. But even like a Terra Ice is huge for this thing, because another thing that Raikou really relied on in the past was hidden power to be able to like throw some type coverage out, especially like hidden power fire or like mainly hidden power ice. So you're able to either Terra into an ice type, a flying type for a defensive to get rid of your weakness. That way you don't really have the ground weakness anymore. Or even just like Terra Electric, still really, really good, just to hit a lot harder. Really cool mon. You also get Calm Mind. Roaring Bolt's also going to be coming into the game, so depending on what the moves for Roaring Bolt is as well, I think Raikou might get some move buffs, because there is also supposed to be a priority electric move that Roaring Bolt gets. Maybe Raikou will get that since they're kind of related. I'm not 100% sure, but Raikou might get some changes, at least move-wise. I don't. There's not really too much else here. Like, it's mainly like electric moves. You also get Volt Switch. Weather Ball could be really good, like especially in the rain. I think that'd be pretty damn cool. There's a few other things here. Charge Beam, if you want to like run a more of a bulkier instead of fast electric terrain user. I don't think it's gonna be that good of an electric terrain user, but it's there. I think there's better options. But Helping Hand, like Magnet Rise, if it gets that back. Rising Voltage could be really good. That could be really good if it gets Rising Voltage back. Fast Rain Dance, it can set up its own rain. Snarl's pretty damn cool. It's a lot of cool stuff. Like, mainly, the main stuff, though, is like the coverage that you want to run. It also gets Scald. I think another thing that's going to be really reliant for Raikou is if it actually gets Scald back. If it doesn't get Scald back, it's not going to be as good. And that's another thing that'll make it a lot better in like rain teams, which I think is going to be like a really underrated mon for. At least for that's what I'm going to try to run with it. I think running this thing in like a rain team, I think would be really cool, and that's one thing I'm probably going to try, see how that goes. But really cool mon. My favorite mon's coming back, and if you guys did not know, my favorite mon is Raikou. If you didn't know now you do. I know a lot of people didn't know what my favorite mon is, and that actually is. So next we got Entei. I think Entei is really cool as well. I really like the legendary dogs. They're some of my favorite Pokemon in the entire game, at least out of the legendaries. The main thing with this thing is it gets E-Speed. It gets Sacred Fire, which is incredibly good. It's a 50% chance to burn, 95% accuracy, and it's a 50% chance to burn, so which is crazy. Especially with like a Terra Fire, even just run like a Choice Band on this thing. I think this thing's going to be like a new Dragonite. You pair this alongside like a Chimpow or even like on Tailwind, that could be really, really good. The main thing though is like E-Speed, like Terra Normal. I think you have more attack than, I'm not sure what Dragonite's attack is, but you have more speed than Dragonite does, which is huge. Dragonite's not a base 100, and you're actually a base 100, which is a way higher speed tier. He also gets coverage, like I think Stomping Tantrum, which, yeah, you get Stomping Tantrum. You also get Stone Edge. I'm not sure if you get Rock Slide. See if you get Rock Slide. You actually don't, unfortunately, but I guess if you really want to Terra into a Rock type, you could, with like Terra Blast, but that's kind of unfortunate you don't get Rock Slide. You also get Flame Charge, Flare Blitz. I don't know why you'd run Flare Blitz over Sacred Fire, but a few other things. Iron Head, if you want to run Terra into a Steel type, it has that option. Like, there's a lot of other stuff here. That is all if these moves do come back. It gets Will-O-Wisp. I don't know why they would get rid of that, but if a lot of this stuff does return, that's just kind of keeping that in mind. It does have a lot of cool options, but I think the main thing's going to be like a Terra Normal, like Bandit E-Speed build. At least that's what I'll probably try to use, and I think that'll be the most common thing. I guess Scarf wouldn't be too bad either, but it just kind of depends what you want to run this thing on as well. I think running it under like Tailwind, like a Tornadus or a Whimsicott would be pretty cool. And then we got Suicune. Really bulky mon. These stats are really, really solid. I think the main thing that's going to come down to Suicune, though, at least out of the legendary dogs, I think out of all of them returning, I think Suicune might be actually the worst one. At least like on paper, just because it comes down to whether this thing actually gets Scald or not. If Suicune does not get Scald, it'll be significantly worse because it really relies on this move. That'll be like the main breaking thing for this mon coming back. And it has the stats and it has the move pool to be really good, especially as like Calm Mind. It gets Tailwind, which is huge. If it gets Toxic back, that'll be really good as well. It also can Terra. You can Terra Water is also really good, but you can also Terra into like a Grass type or whatever else you want to Terra to, which makes it a little bit better defensively. You also get Ice Beam, a few other support moves. Weather Ball. I don't know if you're going to be running Aqua Ring, but it gets a few other support moves like Icy Wind could be decent. Quash. I guess Quash isn't really the greatest unless you're like a Prankster Mon, but it gets Sheer Cold, so another Sheer Cold Mon. Snarl could be pretty good. Whirlpool like trap type stuff, just setting up with like a Whirlpool gets Air Slash, that type of thing. So overall, I think this mon's going to be solid. I don't think it's going to be as good as the other two, though. The main thing is if this thing gets Scald back, and that's kind of what it comes down to. If it doesn't get Scald, then you're forced to run like what's water? Like water, I don't know. Does it get Hydro Pump? It doesn't even get Hydro Pump. I don't think it actually does. So you're going to be forced, if it doesn't get Scald, you're going to be forced to run Hydro Pump as like your water move, or like Terra Water if you're running Terra Water. So I don't know. That's kind of what it comes down to. But it has the stats, and I think it has everything else to be really, really solid. I think another thing with the mention with Entei too is it also has Inner Focus, which allows it to not be intimidated, which is huge, which I forgot to mention as well. I'll just throw that in there. Unfortunately, Raikou doesn't really get like an actual decent hidden ability. Pressure is all it really gets. I think if it had a better ability, it could be a little bit better, but we'll see. Maybe they'll buff it. I don't know. Got Virizion. We haven't really seen Virizion, at least in VGC at all. And in singles, it's always kind of been not really the greatest. It's been more in the lower tiers. I'm not going to really talk about Virizion very much because at least I think the main thing with this thing is actually it's able to Terra now because the grass fighting typing really isn't the greatest. So it's able to Terra into like a pure grass type or even like some other type to take advantage of stuff. It comes down to what move pool this thing gets. I don't really see it played that much, so I can't really talk about it that much. And when it was played, it was a long time ago. I don't really remember it being used that much. So Cobalion, I think, will have some play. It has a really solid typing, like the Steel Fighting typing is pretty good. The only drawback is your neutral to Fairy type moves, which is really common. I think that's the only thing that's kind of really holding it back. So if you really want to Terra, you have to Terra into a Steel type to get your negation to Fairy type moves. Get rid of that. So, or you have to Terra into like a different type entirely. But it could have some decent stuff. Like I think the good thing about Cobalion is you can kind of run it either way because its attacking and special attack stats are both the same. So you have the surprise factor of being able to run either a physical variant or like a special Cobalion, which is pretty unique. It also has a really solid speed tier of 108, so that's kind of cool. I think out of the best one out of the Swords of Justice, though, is probably going to be Terrakion. And for the main reason that Whimsicott's going to be coming back, so like beat up justified strategies with Whimsicott I think can be pretty common. It might be pretty good. It's also a mon that actually, with Whimsicott, if you can get up a Tailwind, you actually threaten Tornadus as well, which is pretty good. And Tornadus can't really do much back to you, especially if you run more of like run some special investment, or even if you just run like Assault Vest, would be pretty cool on this thing. I think it's going to be a multitude of builds. It just kind of comes down to what everything else gets put into the game as well, what kind of starts panning out. You might see this thing at like the start of the Regulation F and like when the DLC first releases, and once stuff starts developing, you'll see more like kind of like setup, I wouldn't say like setup sets, but like more like certain builds for Terrakion to make it work maybe. I do think it's a really cool mon, though. I do really want to personally try this thing out. I did use this way back in the day. Way back, I think it was like Gen. It wasn't in our Ultra Sun and Moon, but I think it was like X and Y. I always had ran teams with like beat up Terrakion. I don't even think it was with Whimsicott. I think it was actually with Weavile back then and with beat up, which it wasn't really that good, but it was really fun to play with, and it did get a lot of wins because a lot of people that I was going against didn't really know how to play against it. But you do that shit nowadays, I don't think you'll be able to get very far because Weavile really isn't the greatest, but back then, Weavile was way better, and there really wasn't nearly the amount of Pokemon that are currently in the game, but cool mon. Talk about the rest here. I don't want to make this video incredibly long, so I kind of have to hurry for you guys. We're already pretty solid amount of time in this video. All these mons here are not going to be legal in VGC, so I'm not going to talk about them very much. You're going to see these in singles, and they're probably going to go right to Ubers if you do play Smogon. So, we're getting Reshiram back. Solid mon. I like Reshiram. I really like the Gen 5 legendaries, if you guys can tell as well. Being that Gen 5 is my favorite gen, so I'm kind of biased that way, but I do like a lot of the Gen 5 legendaries. But really solid stats. Like I think the only thing we're not getting back is like Kyurem. I don't know if it actually is going to allow us to actually have Kyurem white and Kyurem black. I'm assuming that would be there if it was actually in the game, but being that there's probably no item that you're actually going to be able to have to actually like fuse both of them together, I don't think that's actually in the game yet, at least from what we know right now. But Reshiram is going to be back. Really good Mon. It's always been a really solid Mon. Crazy stats. Dragon Fire typing still really, really good. And plus you have Terra on top of that, so you're able to Terra defensively or offensively. Just makes it even better. Zekrom's also really good. There still really is not many like electric dragon types in the game. And being like one of the only like handful of dragon electric types just makes it so good to begin with. Crazy stats. Still crazy stats. I think the only drawback is it's kind of slow compared to a lot of the other legendaries, but still really, really good. Plus, you have Terra now, so you can Terra defensively, and depending on what move pool they give this thing, it'll be absolutely fucking crazy. Still a cool Mon, though. I like Zekrom. Then we got Kyurem. Kyurem may not be the best out of like the three of them, but I think it's still going to be pretty good. The main thing, it just comes down to its move pool. The Ice Dragon typing really isn't the best typing, but now I think the biggest benefactor out of all three of these, at least with like the Terra option, is probably Kyurem. Just because you're able to Terra and get rid of the ice weakness, or the ice typing, which really isn't the greatest typing for this thing, and get rid of the dragon weakness for a lot of the fairy types. So, kind of mainly comes down to a lot of the move pools on this thing too. Like a lot of the legendaries, they like to neuter the move pools on them for some reason, which happened when the Scarlet and Violet first got released. A lot of the home legendaries lost a lot of their move pools until a lot of the move tutors came into the game. So, we'll see how it goes. Also got Lunalis, Solgaleo, and Necrozma, the Ultra Sun and Moon legends, coming back to the game. I'm not going to talk about these very much either because they're not going to be really legal in VGC, and if you do play singles or at least Smogon, they're going to go right to Ubers. I don't think they're going to be an OU or anything. Lunalis is solid. I think it'll be a lot better with Terra because Psychic Ghost and being a lot slower than Calyrex, it just gets outshadowed by Calyrex, but like with Terra, you can maybe make it work and maybe have some different type of aspect to it to work, and it can kind of be different than Calyrex or that type of thing. So, you got Solgaleo. I think it's kind of probably the better one. I think Solgaleo is probably the best out of the three, just mainly because the Steel typing is a lot better, but Psychic Steel really still isn't the greatest typing, but now you also have Terra. Solid stats, though. The stats ain't too bad. I think the main thing is the speed really isn't the greatest, but 97 still really ain't too bad. And it has decent bulk for a legend. I think it's just a little lacking on Spadef, but I think like an AV build or something could be pretty good with this thing. And then you got Necrozma coming back. I don't know how good this thing's actually going to be. It might actually be good in singles. I don't know if this will actually go to Ubers for singles, but like I think with Terra, it might actually go to Ubers because like depending on what setup moves they gave this thing, because I know it was always really good back in Ultra Sun and Moon because it got a shit ton of setup moves, and it also has Prism Armor, which is pretty much it pretty much weakens super effective attacks, so you don't take nearly enough damage from like super effective moves. So you're allowed to live a lot more stuff, even if it's super effective. Kind of like a multi-scale pretty much, but just kind of different. Or like a different ability, but it's pretty much the same thing as multi-scale. And you don't have to be like at like full HP. It's multi-scale, but you don't have to be at full HP for it to be used, pretty much. So I think that's still a really good ability. Plus you have Terra. Psychic really isn't the greatest by itself, but if you can Terra into a defensive typing and be able to get your opponent off guard by that, it could be really good. It just comes down to what move pool they give this thing. If it gets a lot of these moves back, because it has a really good move pool. Like you got self-recovery with like Moonlight and Morning Sun and a bunch of other stuff. It has an incredibly good move pool, but if a lot of these moves don't come back, then I don't think it's going to be very good. So I think Necrozma is going to be one to watch out for, though. Kind of more the underrated out of all the three, the Sun and Moon ones that are going to be coming back, but I think it might actually be really good and might actually be the best one out of all three, depending on how it goes. So we'll see how it goes. And last but not least, I'm going to actually talk about these last four. These aren't going to be legal in VGC either, at least for Regulation F, so I'm not going to talk about them very much. Nor that I have really much experience using these in VGC if they were ever legal. I think maybe Latios and Latios were legal at one point, but I never did use them. Ho-Oh's coming back. I don't know how this thing's going to be really good in singles. It's going to probably go right to Ubers. I don't think it's going to really be in OU. I think the main thing is maybe Terra. Just that way you're not 4 times weak to Stealth Rock, and heavy duty boots would be pretty good on this thing if you're playing it in singles. But I think the main thing that you're going to be using with this thing, I think it's I forgot what the signature move for this thing is. It was Sacred Fire. It also gets Sacred Fire, which is huge. So another Sacred Fire mon, but I think it gets outshadowed by Entei. I really do. It has better stats and has more bulk than Entei does, but I think Entei, at least offensively, is a lot better with the speed tier. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Lugia, I think, will be really good, especially being able to have multi-scale. Like, especially if you run like a setup Lugia with like, I think it gets recover, doesn't it? It always did. It does get recover. So, and Roost if they both come back. So I'm assuming at least one of those abilities will return. I don't think they'll get rid of both of those. Run like a setup set, like with like Calm Mind, Roost, and then like Terra, a defensive Terra, and then like 2 other like coverage moves, and they can be really, really solid. I think that's probably what I would run. I don't really play Ubers at all. I don't really play Smogon at all either, but just kind of going off base of what I know in the past and what it kind of did in the past. It could be really good, especially with these stats. And you add Terra to that. It's really, really solid. Latios, with Terra, this thing could be really good. It's kind of the same boat as Latios. Usually Latios is the more popular one just because it's a little bit better offensively. You have the extra 20 points in the special attack, which is a lot better. Usually Latios is more of the defensive one. It just comes down to what movesets they give these things, and if a lot of these moves return. They have really solid move pools, and I think with Terra they can be really, really good, but it just comes down to what moves come back and what they actually give them. If they like neuter a lot of the move pools for a lot of the legendaries that are returning again, a lot of them might end up falling off or won't be nearly as good as they should be. So we'll see how it goes. These aren't going to be legal in VGC anyways, but I thought I'd mention them anyways, kind of just talk about them for you guys. That's all we have. That is all the returning legendaries we are going to be getting. Like I said, there is some other ones that were on the graphic, which I might throw up again right now for you guys if you guys missed it at the beginning of the video. Some of those are already in the game, like a few of those like Cub Fu, and there's a few like Moltres, Zapdos, Articuno, and all those ones. They're already in the game. So you're going to actually be able to catch them in the DLC for the first time, but technically they're already in the game with Pokemon Home, and they're able to already be transferred over, and doesn't really pay talking about them because they've already been in the game for quite a while already. So I just wanted to talk about some of the new ones. I apologize if this video went way longer than I wanted it to, but a lot of stuff to talk about, a lot of returning stuff. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you guys like these videos, leave a like, subscribe, share the video. Really appreciate it. If these videos keep on doing well, I'll bring some more to you guys in the future. Kind of wanted to discuss this. Got a bunch of stuff on the way with the Indigo disc dropping here in about a week and a half. So if you do not want to miss it, a bunch of VGC content on the way. I'm really in the mood to start making some new teams with all the new mons we're going to be getting. I'll definitely be making a team around Raikou, that's for sure. So if you guys want to see a team around Raikou, sub, because that'll be a guaranteed thing I'll be doing. And probably a team around Entei too. Like, I'll probably be making a team around Entei. I think that's another mon I really want to build around. Apart from that, I'm going to get out of here. Thanks for stopping by, everybody. And I'll see you guys in a future video.